Have you ever noticed something that almost nobody talks about? Two people can wake up at the same time, work just as hard, stay busy for the same number of hours, and even earn almost the same income. Yet 20 years later, one has financial freedom while the other is still worrying about bills, waiting for the next paycheck, and wondering where all the time went. How does that happen? Most people think the answer is intelligence. Others blame luck, education, or the economy. But psychology tells a different story. The greatest difference between people who build lasting wealth and those who remain financially stuck isn't how much they earn in the beginning. It's how they think about earning, creating, and owning. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A job can provide security. A business can create opportunity. But neither guarantees wealth. Real wealth is built by the person behind the paycheck, not by the paycheck itself. And that's where everything changes. Because this isn't really a conversation about jobs versus businesses. It's a conversation about identity, about discipline, about mindset, about the invisible habits that quietly shape your future every single day. By the end of this journey, you may never look at work, money, or success the same way again. Imagine standing beside two roads. The first road is smooth, clearly marked, and familiar. Millions of people walk it every morning. They know exactly where it leads because someone else designed it. There are schedules to follow, expectations to meet, and predictable rewards along the way. The second road is different. It has no signs. The path disappears around every corner. Sometimes it climbs steep hills. Sometimes it seems to vanish completely. But hidden somewhere beyond those turns is the possibility of creating something that belongs entirely to you. Most people choose the first road without ever realizing they had another option. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack ambition, because the human brain is designed to prefer certainty over possibility. Neuroscientists have discovered that uncertainty activates regions of the brain associated with fear and stress. Your brain evolved to protect you from danger, not to maximize your wealth. Thousands of years ago, avoiding uncertainty kept our ancestors alive. Today, the same wiring often keeps people trapped in comfortable routines that no longer serve them. This explains why leaving a stable job can feel terrifying even when you know you're capable of more. Your psychology whispers, stay safe. Your potential quietly asks, what if there's more? Every meaningful transformation begins with choosing which voice deserves your attention. But here's what most people never realize. The debate between having a job and owning a business is often asked in the wrong way. People ask, which one makes more money? A better question is, which one helps me become the person capable of creating wealth? Those are completely different questions. Because wealth is rarely created by income alone. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you build. A paycheck can disappear the same day it arrives. An asset can continue producing value long after you've stopped working. This difference seems small when you're 25. It becomes impossible to ignore when you're 55. Psychology calls this present bias. Human beings naturally give greater value to immediate rewards than future ones. Receiving money today feels more exciting than building something that may produce greater returns years later. That's why so many people spend decades chasing larger salaries without asking whether they're creating lasting value. It's easier to improve your income than it is to transform your thinking. And yet your thinking determines what eventually happens to your income. Consider how differently two people might view the exact same paycheck. One sees spending power. The other sees investment capital. One celebrates the weekend. The other quietly purchases another piece of their future. The amount isn't always different. The mindset is. This is why discipline matters so much. Discipline isn't punishment. It isn't waking up at 4 a.m. simply because successful people do. Discipline is the ability to make decisions that your future self will thank you for, even when your present emotions disagree. That applies whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, a freelancer, or an investor. Too many people believe entrepreneurs automatically become wealthy. Reality tells another story. Businesses fail every day. Many owners work longer hours than employees. Some experience years of uncertainty before seeing meaningful results. Owning a business without discipline is like driving a race car without knowing how to steer. Speed only gets you into trouble faster. On the other hand, an employee with extraordinary discipline can build impressive wealth by continuously developing valuable skills, investing consistently, creating additional income streams, and making thoughtful financial decisions. Success has never belonged exclusively to one career path. It belongs to people who understand how value is created. Something unexpected happens next. Let's imagine two friends who graduate from university together. They are equally intelligent. Both dream of financial freedom. Both promise themselves they won't settle for an average life. The first accepts a stable corporate job. The second launches a small business with endless excitement and confidence. Everyone assumes the entrepreneur will become wealthy first. Years pass. The employee keeps learning. Reads books on psychology, leadership, productivity, communication, and investing. Builds habits that improve every area of life. Saves consistently. Learns how businesses operate from inside the company. Develops confidence by solving increasingly difficult problems. Begins investing every month, even when the amounts seem insignificant. Eventually starts a side business built around skills already mastered through work. Meanwhile, the entrepreneur becomes obsessed with appearing successful. Expensive office, luxury car, busy social media, little profit, no focus, no consistency. Every new trend seems more exciting than finishing the previous idea. One person quietly compounds. The other constantly restarts. Who do you think reaches financial freedom first? The answer isn't determined by the label attached to their work. It's determined by their habits. Behavioral scientists often describe habits as automatic decisions repeated until they shape identity. Most people think habits change results. The deeper truth is that habits change the person producing those results. A person who consistently keeps promises to themselves develops confidence. Confidence leads to better decisions. Better decisions improve productivity. Higher productivity creates greater value. Greater value increases opportunity. Opportunity expands income. Income, managed wisely, becomes wealth. Notice how money appears near the end of that chain, not at the beginning. That's because wealth is usually a consequence of character expressed consistently over time. This is where everything changes. Imagine planting two trees. Every day you water the first. The second receives attention only when you remember. For months, they appear almost identical. Visitors might even believe the neglected tree is doing just fine. But beneath the surface, invisible roots are developing at completely different rates. Years later, one tree withstands every storm. The other collapses under pressure. Your financial life works exactly the same way. The invisible habits you repeat today become the roots supporting your future. No one applauds consistency in the beginning. No one celebrates small investments. No one notices another book you finished reading. No one sees the hours spent improving your skills after work. But those quiet moments are where real wealth begins. Not in dramatic breakthroughs. Not in viral success. Not in overnight business empires. In ordinary days repeated with extraordinary intention. Psychologists call this delayed gratification, the willingness to sacrifice immediate pleasure for greater future rewards. One of the most famous studies in behavioral science found that children who learned to delay gratification often experienced better long-term outcomes in education, health, and career success. While life is more complex than a single experiment, the principle remains remarkably powerful. The ability to wait for a greater reward often shapes the quality of your future. The same principle applies to your financial life. Every time you choose learning over endless entertainment, investing over unnecessary spending, or improving your skills instead of making excuses, you're strengthening a mental muscle that many people never develop. That muscle is resilience. Resilience isn't about avoiding failure. It's about refusing to let failure define your future. And whether you choose a job, a business, or a combination of both, resilience will determine how far you go. Because setbacks are inevitable. Economic downturns happen. Companies restructure. Businesses struggle. Markets change. Technology evolves. The people who continue growing are rarely the ones with the easiest path. They're the ones with the strongest mindset. But the story doesn't end there. Because there's another principle that separates people who simply earn money from those who build lasting wealth. And it begins with understanding one simple question. Are you working only for today's income, or are you building tomorrow's value? The answer to that question has the power to reshape your career, your finances, and ultimately, your entire life. That question deserves more than a quick answer, because tomorrow's value is almost never visible today. Think about the tallest building you've ever seen. People admire the glass, the steel, and the incredible view from the top. Almost no one stops to appreciate the foundation buried deep underground. Yet without that invisible foundation, the entire structure would collapse under its own weight. Your financial life follows the same principle. The income you earn is the part everyone sees. The skills, discipline, habits, relationships, and mindset you build are the foundation no one notices. And in the long run, the foundation always determines how high you can build. This is why many people remain trapped even after receiving promotions or salary increases. They believe more income automatically creates more wealth. But if your habits remain the same, a larger paycheck often leads to larger expenses instead of greater freedom. Psychology has a name for this pattern: lifestyle inflation. As income rises, expectations rise with it. The new car replaces the old one. A bigger apartment becomes necessary. Luxury becomes routine. Soon, the salary that once felt like a dream becomes the new minimum required just to maintain the same lifestyle. Nothing has really changed except the size of the bills. This is one of the quietest traps in modern life. The world constantly encourages you to look wealthy before you've actually become wealthy. Real wealth is much quieter. It doesn't always announce itself with expensive watches or luxury vacations. Sometimes it looks like a modest person who owns valuable investments. Sometimes it's someone who lives below their means while quietly acquiring assets that generate income month after month. That person understands a powerful truth. Money is a wonderful employee but a terrible master. When every dollar you earn immediately leaves your pocket, you're working for money. When some of that money begins working for you, your relationship with wealth starts to change. But here's what most people never realize. Building wealth isn't only a financial process. It's an emotional one. Every investment requires patience. Every business requires uncertainty. Every promotion requires growth. Every meaningful goal demands that you become comfortable being uncomfortable. Your emotions will constantly tempt you to quit before your results arrive. This is where discipline becomes more valuable than motivation. Motivation is exciting. It feels powerful. It fills you with energy after watching an inspiring video or reading a great book. But motivation is temporary because emotions naturally rise and fall. Discipline continues long after motivation disappears. Think about learning to play the piano. The first few days are exciting. Every new note feels like progress. A few weeks later, improvement slows. Mistakes become frustrating. Practicing no longer feels exciting. Most people stop there. Not because they're incapable, because they expected motivation to carry them further than discipline was prepared to take them. The same pattern appears in careers. An employee starts a new job full of excitement. An entrepreneur launches a new business with endless enthusiasm. Eventually, both encounter routine. The work becomes repetitive. Challenges become more difficult. Progress feels invisible. This is the moment that separates dreamers from builders. Dreamers chase excitement. Builders trust consistency. Success quietly favors the second group. Something unexpected happens next. Let's meet someone named Daniel. Daniel wasn't extraordinary. He wasn't born into wealth. He wasn't the smartest student in school. He didn't have influential connections or a brilliant business idea waiting to change the world. What he did have was curiosity. At 24, Daniel accepted an ordinary office job. His friends joked that he'd settled for a safe life. Social media constantly showed entrepreneurs buying sports cars, traveling the world, and talking about financial freedom before turning 30. For a while, Daniel questioned himself. Was he falling behind? Was he wasting his potential? Every comparison made him feel smaller. Then one evening, after another long day at work, he noticed something interesting. The most respected people in his company weren't simply working harder. They were solving problems nobody else wanted to solve. While others rushed home, they stayed an extra hour learning new systems. While coworkers complained about change, they volunteered for difficult projects. While others protected their comfort, they expanded their competence. Daniel decided to conduct a quiet experiment. Instead of chasing quick money, he would spend the next 5 years becoming impossible to ignore. He read for 30 minutes every morning before work. He improved his communication skills. He learned negotiation. He studied psychology to better understand people. He became fascinated with productivity instead of busyness. He stopped asking, "How can I earn more this month?" He started asking, "How can I become more valuable this year?" That single question transformed everything. His managers noticed. Clients trusted him. Colleagues sought his advice. Promotions arrived, not because he demanded them, but because his value had become obvious. Then something remarkable happened. The knowledge he'd accumulated over those years became the foundation for a consulting business he started on weekends. Unlike many people who rushed into entrepreneurship hoping to escape employment, Daniel entered business carrying years of practical experience, confidence, and relationships. His job had quietly become his training ground. Within a few years, the business generated more income than his salary. Eventually, he chose to leave his job, not because he hated it, but because it had successfully prepared him for the next chapter. Daniel didn't choose between a job and a business. He used one to build the other. That is the kind of thinking that creates lasting wealth. The lesson isn't that everyone should follow Daniel's exact path. The lesson is that every season of your life can become preparation for the next if you approach it intentionally. Too often, people see only what they currently have. Successful people also see what it can become. A job can teach leadership. Leadership can create opportunities. Opportunities can become businesses. Businesses can generate investments. Investments can create financial freedom. Everything compounds. Skills compound. Knowledge compounds. Confidence compounds. Relationships compound. Money compounds. Even your mistakes compound if you continue learning from them instead of repeating them. This is why personal growth should never be viewed as separate from financial growth. The two are deeply connected. Imagine trying to pour water into a cup that's already full. No matter how much water you add, it spills over the edges. Many people try to increase their income without expanding their capacity. They earn more, but manage it no better. They receive opportunities, but lack the confidence to seize them. They start businesses, but abandon them during the first difficult season. Their financial container never grows. Real growth requires expanding the container before increasing what's inside it. That's exactly what self-improvement accomplishes. Every book you read expands your thinking. Every difficult conversation strengthens your confidence. Every failure develops resilience. Every disciplined decision rewires your brain to tolerate delayed gratification. Neuroscientists often describe the brain as remarkably adaptable. Through neuroplasticity, repeated thoughts and actions strengthen specific neural pathways. In simple terms, every time you practice discipline instead of giving in to impulse, you make that behavior a little easier to repeat in the future. Your habits are literally shaping your brain. Think about that. Every morning, you choose focus over distraction. Every evening, you choose learning over endless scrolling. Every paycheck, you choose investing over unnecessary spending. Every difficult task you complete instead of avoiding. You're not simply changing your schedule. You're changing yourself. This is why consistency often looks unimpressive in the moment. No dramatic transformation happens overnight. One workout doesn't create strength. One investment doesn't create wealth. One productive day doesn't build a successful career. But thousands of small decisions, repeated with intention, create extraordinary outcomes. Nature understands this better than people do. A river doesn't carve through rock because it's powerful in a single moment. It succeeds because it keeps flowing. The rock eventually yields to persistence. Life often works the same way. Many talented people quit because progress feels too slow. Average people with extraordinary consistency quietly pass them. Not because talent stopped matching, because consistency multiplies whatever talent exists. This is where everything changes. Instead of asking whether a job or a business builds more wealth, ask yourself a different question every morning. What am I building inside myself today? Because the person you become will ultimately determine the wealth you create. A disciplined person will find opportunities where others see obstacles. A resilient person will recover from setbacks that permanently discourage others. A curious person will continue learning while everyone else becomes outdated. A focused person will accomplish in 5 years what distracted people struggle to achieve in 20. Your greatest investment will never appear on a bank statement. It will appear in your character. And character has a remarkable way of attracting opportunity. But there is one final shift in perspective that brings all of these lessons together. It challenges almost everything society teaches about work, money, and success. Once you understand it, you'll stop asking whether you should choose a job or a business. Instead, you'll begin asking a far more powerful question. How can I build a life where every decision creates greater freedom instead of greater dependence? The answer to that question is where real wealth begins. Freedom is one of the most misunderstood words in the modern world. Many people believe freedom means never having a boss. Others believe it means traveling whenever you want, sleeping late, or making unlimited money. But real freedom is much quieter than that. It's the freedom to make decisions based on your values instead of your fears. It's having enough confidence to say no to opportunities that don't align with your purpose. It's having enough financial stability that an unexpected expense doesn't create panic. It's waking up each morning knowing that you're building a life instead of simply surviving another day. And that kind of freedom isn't created by a job or a business alone. It's created by the person you become through years of intentional choices. This is why the richest people you will ever meet often think differently before they act differently. They don't ask, "How much money will I make today?" They ask, "What can I build today that will continue creating value tomorrow?" That subtle difference changes everything. Imagine a farmer preparing for the harvest. If he focuses only on today's meal, he'll consume every seed he owns. But if he understands the future, he'll protect some seeds, plant them, care for them, and patiently wait. At first, it looks like sacrifice. Months later, it looks like wisdom. Years later, it looks like abundance. Every paycheck contains seeds. Every skill you learn is a seed. Every meaningful relationship is a seed. Every disciplined habit is a seed. Your future depends on how many of those seeds you choose to plant instead of consume. This is where psychology becomes incredibly important. The human brain naturally seeks immediate rewards because they feel certain. Waiting for a distant outcome requires trust, emotional control, and mental strength. That is why building wealth is rarely just a financial challenge. It is a psychological challenge. You are constantly negotiating with yourself. Should you spend or invest? Should you relax or continue learning? Should you complain or improve? Should you blame circumstances or take responsibility? These small internal conversations shape your future far more than dramatic life events. Every decision becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Behavioral scientists often explain that identity grows from repeated actions. You don't become disciplined because you call yourself disciplined. You become disciplined by repeatedly doing disciplined things. The same is true for confidence. Confidence isn't created by positive thinking alone. It grows when you repeatedly keep promises to yourself. Every time you finish what you started. Every time you face a difficult conversation. Every time you learn a new skill instead of avoiding discomfort. You quietly tell your brain, "I can trust myself." That trust becomes confidence. And confidence changes the way you walk into interviews, negotiate salaries, present business ideas, speak with clients, and handle setbacks. People often mistake confidence for charisma. In reality, confidence is accumulated evidence. It is the memory of hundreds of moments when you chose courage over comfort. That is why your greatest competition has never been another employee or another entrepreneur. Your greatest competition is the version of yourself that settles too soon. The version that waits for motivation before taking action. The version that tells you tomorrow will somehow be easier than today. The version that mistakes being busy for being productive. Real productivity isn't about filling every hour with activity. It's about directing your energy toward the few actions that create the greatest long-term value. A person can work 12 exhausting hours every day and still make little progress if those hours are spent solving the wrong problems. Another person may work fewer hours with extraordinary focus and produce results that completely transform their future. Focus is one of the rarest forms of wealth in today's distracted world. Every notification competes for your attention. Every headline fights for your emotions. Every trend promises a shortcut. But lasting success rarely comes from chasing every opportunity. It comes from saying no to distractions that pull you away from your purpose. Think of sunlight. On its own, it gently warms your skin. But when focused through a magnifying glass, it becomes powerful enough to ignite fire. Your attention works exactly the same way. Scattered attention creates scattered results. Focused attention creates momentum. Momentum creates opportunities. Opportunities create wealth. But here's what most people never realize. There comes a point where your income is no longer determined primarily by how hard you work. It becomes determined by how much value you create for other people. Employees who solve expensive problems become indispensable. Business owners who solve meaningful problems attract loyal customers. Investors who recognize valuable opportunities create growing portfolios. The principle is always the same. Value comes first. Money follows. That means every day presents a simple opportunity. Ask yourself, what problem can I solve today? The larger the problem you learn to solve, the more valuable you become. This mindset completely changes the way you approach your career. Instead of asking whether your employer appreciates you enough, you begin asking whether you're becoming more capable every month. Instead of comparing your beginning to someone else's success, you compare today's version of yourself to yesterday's. That is personal growth. And personal growth compounds, just like money. 1 year of consistent improvement might not seem dramatic. 5 years can completely transform your life. 10 years can make you almost unrecognizable. People who meet you then will often call you lucky. They won't see the mornings when you chose learning over sleeping in. They won't see the weekends you invested in developing new skills. They won't see the evenings when you kept working while everyone else quit. Luck often looks like invisible preparation meeting visible opportunity. When opportunity finally arrives, prepared people appear fortunate. Unprepared people call it unfair. The difference was never the opportunity. It was the preparation. Now imagine yourself 10 years from today. Picture 2 possible futures. In the first, life continues almost exactly as it is now. The same routines, the same excuses, the same financial worries, the same dreams postponed until someday. Years quietly pass. Nothing catastrophic happens, but nothing extraordinary happens either. Now imagine a different future. You commit to learning every week. You strengthen your discipline one decision at a time. You improve your communication. You increase your financial knowledge. You build better habits. You invest consistently. You develop resilience through challenges instead of avoiding them. Whether you remain in a job, start a business, or combine both, you continue becoming more valuable every single year. Eventually, people begin seeking your advice. Opportunities arrive more frequently. Your confidence grows because it is supported by real experience. Money no longer feels like something you chase. It becomes something attracted by the value you create. Which future feels more likely? The answer isn't hidden in the economy. It isn't hidden in your employer. It isn't hidden in your business idea. It is hidden in the decisions you make after this moment. Small choices become habits. Habits become character. Character shapes destiny. That is how real wealth is built. Not overnight, not through luck, but through thousands of ordinary decisions made with extraordinary intention. If you've enjoyed this audiobook and want more powerful lessons on mindset, discipline, success, psychology, and personal growth, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Our journey together isn't just about earning more money. It's about becoming the kind of person who can create opportunities, overcome challenges, and build a meaningful life regardless of circumstances. Because once you change the way you think, you begin changing the way you live. And once you change the way you live, you begin changing the future that once seemed impossible. In the next video, we'll explore why your job will never make you rich, where you'll discover another powerful mindset shift that can completely transform the way you think, work, and live. You won't want to miss it. As you finish listening, remember this one final thought. Whether you choose a job, a business, or a path that blends both is far less important than the person you become while walking that path. Wealth is not merely measured by the balance in your bank account, but by the discipline you practice when no one is watching, the resilience you show when life becomes difficult, the habits you repeat when motivation fades, and the value you create for others every single day. Begin where you are. Use what you have. Learn relentlessly. Stay consistent. Protect your focus. Build your character before you chase your fortune. Because when your mindset grows stronger than your fears, success stops being a distant dream and becomes the natural result of the life you choose to build, one deliberate decision at a time.